What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be working on this International 184, and this is a customer's tractor that he brought in. It's just not running good at all. It sounds down a cylinder, but when I was kind of stripping it apart, it was already too late. I already took a couple plugs out. They were just nasty. So I mean, I think this thing is more than likely just due for a tune-up, but we're going to go ahead and do all that stuff on camera and see if this thing will run a little bit better. All right, so first thing here, we're just going to take the hood off. It's normally just 4 bolts that hold this hood on, and we're just going to set it aside. So like I was saying, basically the symptoms of the tractor are that it's just intermittently running. Sometimes, you don't even have any power up here to the lights and stuff like that. So there might be like some problems with the electrical system, maybe a loose connection, something easy, hopefully. He said he hadn't had it running for about a year, and then whenever we were backing it off the trailer, the lights started flickering, so he tried starting it up, and it started, but it didn't sound good at all. So again, it sounds down a cylinder. I'm going to show you the spark plug that I pulled out. All right, so you're not seeing a whole lot of detail on the camera. That's because it's just completely pitch black. So I grounded it to a bare spot on the tractor, and it was getting a spark, but it was very weak. So we're just going to go ahead, freshen everything up, do the points. We also have a coil, and while we're talking about that, I'll show you the box that we got. We have new plugs. These are auto lights. So we're going to be putting those on, and we have a new distributor cap. We also have all the parts that we're going to need to just kind of freshen up the ignition system, including the points, the rotor, and the spark plug wires. So another thing I check for is when I pull all the plugs out one by one, I'll go through and crank the tractor over, make sure that we're getting some kind of compression in the cylinder. I do feel you should see actually debris and stuff flying out from how old these things are. If it was a clean cylinder, obviously it wouldn't be doing that, but these spark plugs were pretty corroded in there, so we're gonna have to fight all these off. But we're gonna go ahead, take all these plugs out, put the new plugs in. All right, guys, so the new plugs are put in there. Every single plug had carbon buildup, quite a bit actually. So that could be that the spark's not hot enough to burn all that stuff off. So it could be, weak points or a dirty points. So we're going to go on to the other side of the tractor and tackle the ignition components now. All right, guys, I am noticing another issue here. This is a very corroded negative terminal on the battery. So it's potential that it could even be a grounding issue, but we're going to keep working on the ignition stuff. We're going to pop these terminals off of the battery, clean them up, and go from there. While we're at it, we're also going to take the coil off. We're going to be pulling off all the wires as well as the cap. I think I've diagnosed this tractor. So I pulled the cap off. This is the old cap. And I was just double checking all the plugs, and I stumbled across this one. And if you look right here, there's no connector. So when I took this apart, there was no connector anywhere. It's not stuck inside the cap or anything. So I'm gonna bet that that's what was causing all these issues, was this plug wire. So we're going to go ahead and finish up all the other stuff on this tractor. We still do have to build the new spark plug wires, but yeah, there's actually 2 of them like that. This one, it has a little bit sticking out, so that may have been, this was cylinder number 1 where I checked and it was a weak spark. Obviously with that wire sticking out a little bit, you can still have some kind of contact and still get some kind of spark, but that may be a weak spark right there. However, on the number 1 cylinder, I did find the connector for that one, which was stuck inside the cap. But for the number 3 cylinder, I believe, there was no connector whatsoever. We're going to get started with building all of the plug wires. All right, guys, so we've got the coil put on, we've got all the plug wires put on. I don't know where my time lapse kind of cut out there. My battery died on my camera, but So now we're gonna move on to some different issues, because when I fired the tractor up, and I'll show you what it sounds like. I fired it up and it sounds like the fuel mixture is just weird. It doesn't want to idle. So I have the linkages off the carburetor right now. So just let's hope it starts. But that's all I'm going to run it. But I can tell that it's firing on all cylinders now. But there's just an issue, because when you just let it sit in there, it just keeps dying and dying and dying. And then there's the telltale, the gas flowing out of the throat of the carburetor. That's an issue that they all have, and I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. All right, so coming around to this side, we got our carburetor here. I cleaned it up, I completely disassembled it, and there was a little bit of gas leaking around where you kind of split the carburetor in half right there. There was gas leaking around that gasket. So I cleaned it all up, got everything resealed, and now it's all sealed through here. But then when you reach in here, sometimes there's just a little bit of gas flowing through there. Normally, whenever you go in here and split the carburetor in half, both of the mating surfaces here are not completely flat. There might be a little bit of warping. One, it's just an old tractor, and two, they just get hot and then cool down and hot. And eventually anything that goes through temperature changes like that, they just kind of get some warping and stuff sometimes. So there's really a couple things that you can do for a situation like this. They do make an aftermarket carburetor. A lot of people don't like to go with those because they're made in China and they're not as good and they don't idle as good. However, if you don't go for the absolute cheapest carburetor that you can find on Amazon or eBay or whatever, then you're gonna be fine. I've actually used a carburetor in a similar scenario where those two surfaces were not flat and there was some kind of gas seeping through, and I've tried to sand them down and it's still doing it. So normally you can kind of sand them down with a block and fix it, but these are just shot. So I did order one of those. It should be here in the next like 2 or 3 days maybe, and we'll be throwing it on the tractor and hopefully that'll fix all the problems. I'll be making a video, of course, to show you the tractor running. The last couple weeks I haven't been as active on YouTube. I'd say even the last month. I haven't been as active because I've been taking on so many projects and it's just getting really busy. So obviously we're like kind of a quarter of the way through painting the truck. If you're still watching at this point, I assume that you really care about the updates. So I'm just gonna take you around the truck, kind of show you what we're doing now. The bed did get mounted, so we're not like bolted down or anything, but we're just sitting on the frame. And I'm just going through kind of just trying to smooth out what I can. And then we'll be, hopefully trying to prime the bed in the next video. Again, I've been making some crazy progress on this, and then I've been taking on all these projects, and it is what it is. I do have some crazy exciting projects coming that will be on the channel, and I've talked to the owners of the vehicles. They're not my vehicles, but the owners of these vehicles have agreed that they thought it would be cool if it was on the channel. I try not to tease and do the whole cliffhanger thing, but just understand that we're gonna have some really cool cars coming. All right guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Obviously whenever we get the carburetor in here, we're going to finish up this tractor project and send it on home to its owner. And if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. I would really, really appreciate it. Help grow the channel. Like I said, we're gonna have some really cool projects coming. So I'm just super excited to start getting them in here. All right guys, I will catch you in the next video.